Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic monthly roundtable show. This week in WordPress and tech, got a fabulous panel, got a special guest as well. It should be a great show. We're going to be discussing WordPress 6.3, the proposed new functionality. We're going to be talking about Elon Musk, what happened yesterday, his new chief CEO. We've got to talk about that. We're going to be talking about Apple's VR and WordPress shortcodes. We've got a load of stuff. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. So, Lee, would you like quickly to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Indeed. Hello, my name is Lee Matthew Jackson, and I am the host of the Trailblazer FM podcast, and I'm also an agency owner with a company called Event Engine.
Okay, thank you. I've got my friend Heather. Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Heather Wilde Renze. I am the CTO of The Difference Consulting, and I'm also known as the Unicorn Whisperer.
Got my friend Spencer. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself?
It's Spence from WP Launchify. Good to be back after a 3-week hiatus after being run over by a truck.
Oh, right. And I've got my friend Chris. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Chris from Lifter LMS, and I have a podcast for course creators and WordPress pros called LMS Cast.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I've got my other co-host of my other podcast, Kurt. Kurt, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Kurt von Ahnen, own an agency called Mañana No Mas. We consult with businesses largely on learning and membership websites.
Right. And before we go into the meat and potatoes of this great podcast, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back, folks. I just want to point out, got some great special offers from the sponsors, plus a curated list of WordPress plugins so you don't have to troll the internet to find the best solutions for your WordPress problems. To find all these goodies, all you have to do is go over to WP-Tonic/deals, WP-Tonic/deals, and you find all the goodies, the free goodies, all there. And we know you like your free goodies, don't we? So let's go straight into it. WordPress 6.3. So we're just recovering from 6.2. They've got a long list. So, Lee, also as normal, this is on the Tavern. As normal, Lee, the comments are always interesting, the response to the actual article. But so what's your thoughts about this list of improvements in the comments that I read as well?
Well, I didn't actually read the comments because I knew that I would probably get involved in several arguments. So the biggest thing that jumped out to me, though, was just simply the performance and compatibility. So especially for PHP 8 and above, I've got a large development team. And one of our biggest issues is things like speed or issues with PHP, etc. So for us, we were very happy to see that the team are putting that at the top of their list. And also I did watch, I think there was a bit of a demonstration. I don't know if it was the same link or if it was a link further on. It was a demonstration of how someone envisaged everything working together. The new site editor is already pretty impressive, but they were showing how everything was grouped together. I just thought it looked really nice. It's a little bit of eye candy, as it were.
Yeah, I was also really they're talking about having a library, a shared library. I think if they could do something there, that would be fantastic. So, Spencer, what did you think of this proposal and that? What's your initial response?
Well, this week is going to be the more subdued Spence until my spit and vinegar comes back full strength. So given that that's the case, one of the things that's relevant to me was like during the last couple of days, we had the 6.2.1 fiasco where some well-intentioned, but maybe just started using WordPress yesterday developer decided, shortcodes, who needs shortcodes? Let's take shortcodes out of the full site editor. What the hell? Because there's a security flaw after 17 years.
You gotta keep things tidy.
So the thing that exemplifies to me is prior to my little departure, I was having a little bit of fun with our good friend Jamie Marsland over Poodle Press, who is now, much like our friend Brian Gardner, kind of gung-ho, and maybe like Chris too, gung-ho full site editor. And I'm like gung-ho classic plus Gutenberg. And that's, to me, an emphasis on what the hell is wrong with the development cycle right now, because you have people who are new developers participating in developing 2 product lines who have no seeming historical reference as to how and why things are here and what they do. And they see something like shortcodes and say, oh, who needs shortcodes? It's 2023. Let's just pull this out of here. And they only pull it out of full site editor. They don't pull it out of the front end Gutenberg, which, by the way, emphasizes my point of like, there's 2 different ways shortcodes work and there are 2 different types of blockade. And you can see where the layers are going. So we have 2 kitchens with 2 different types of developments, different cooks with no history, rapidly changing, adding, and pulling things out. And there's no top down, like, this is what WordPress is. It's good luck where you land. So we went from like 16 and a half years of a nightmare to finally Sally G. By the way, I love she's commenting. Sally's dream has come true that Gutenberg is a thing and it's working. And they're doing everything they can willy-nilly to create new havoc and chaos. That's what I see. And it's really a shame because on my world, the WordPress as a service world, we're already in nirvana. We just have to stop breaking what's here.
We're in the highlands. So, Heather, what's your thought about this this roadmap? It's all good stuff, but yeah.
The thing that I was drawn to is that they're doing a lot of more work on the API.
Yeah.
Because that was, that's really where I spend the most time. Because obviously Gutenberg, I really don't care about. And so, I've said this so many times. But the fact that they actually like call out that they're going to fix bugs that have been reported on the API, they're going to fix the bugs with PHP issues that people are having. That's a step in the right direction because that shows that they're actually going to care about all of the plugin developers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So, Chris, it's got some good stuff, but I also think the point that Spence was making is also very relevant as well. So what's your thoughts about it, Chris?
Well, I think first it's important to zoom out. So the 4 phases, the phase 1 was the block editor. Phase 2, which we're just finishing up, is full site editing. Phase 3 is multi-author collaboration so that people stop creating content in Google Docs and actually create it in WordPress natively is kind of how I see that one. And then I love the multilingual website support for better internationalization. That's phase 4. Just because we're ending a phase, it doesn't mean they'll stop working on it. Like we continue to work on the block editor and get new features and fixes around that. I'm happy with full site editing. I just released a full site editing theme called Sky Pilot. That bug though with the shortcode broke at exactly the moment I was doing all the launch marketing, and I had to tiptoe around it on a webinar I was doing. And I actually think they fixed it fairly quickly. Like,
yeah, well, it's our next WordPress story.
We'll circle back to that, but yeah, it is a tale of 2 interfaces. Like Spencer's saying, there's 2 paths here. I was just watching a great WordPress AI online conference that Human Made was putting on, and Vito made a point about how in AI, just like in WordPress with Gutenberg, we're building in public, right? So things are breaking, and there's a lot of like cannibalization going on. So for example, page builders cannibalize the themes. Now the block editors cannibalizing the page builders and so on. But it's not like these events just happen like a switch. There's a lot of chaos in the in-between times, and the old thing never really goes away entirely, especially in WordPress. So as we go on here, I think we're just going to get more and more complexity, throw AI in the mix. So the golden mean here is to figure out how to create simplicity in a world with peak tooling in the computer screen to build a website, peak content with all the amplification of AI, and then peak people having a hard time with attention span because there's just so much going on so fast.
Yeah, I see where you're coming, Kurt. I think one of the problems, Kurt, about this is that WordPress is trying to appeal to a very diverse crowd, basically, and because of that, in the end, in a lot of ways, it doesn't satisfy anybody. And what I mean by that is, like, I think you need a kind of cut down version, Gutenberg, which operates for those that just want to update their pages. That works in a similar way that the editor in LinkedIn, when you're posting a post in LinkedIn, gives that kind of experience. And then you've got the more professional market that wants a real something where they can build whole landing pages, websites, all sorts of stuff. And I think that would be a better solution, because I think trying to provide one solution and not modularizing it is maybe a problem. What's your own thoughts, Kurt?
Well, I think you nailed it with talking about diversity, because look at the panel and everything that we focused on as what we wanted to talk about on this article. And my approach was completely different than the other 4 guest panelists. From an agency perspective and working with clients that I might have to coach through adjusting their site, to your point, Jonathan, adding content, changing content, maybe modifying the appearance. I think some of the strides or steps that they've made with the new WordPress full site editor are good, like the new navigation blocks or the mini previews of the changes that are coming and things like that will make it easier for more of an entry level or medium level person to make these types of adjustments. And maybe downstream, maybe to Chris's point, they do evolve it and it comes up with maybe some kind of a user role exemption where they say this user role gets this access to the full site editor, and then the admin user role gets a greater view of that. But we'll have to see how it develops and how it creeps out.
Yeah, I think they really urgently need that, and I think they just need a more. I just sense that there's a lot of flux and changes, and maybe it's just part of open source project. But I think you could do a lot more, even though it's open source, and understand that you've got to provide a editing environment that has elements of what you find in LinkedIn. I'm not just choosing LinkedIn. That kind of environment is mimicked on a number of platforms. And then you also got to appeal for the more professional market. You could say that's not possible. I actually think it is, but you just need a bit of thought about it, really. Well, let's get...
I just had one last thing. Do you remember decisions, not options? The philosophy of WordPress many years ago was decisions, not options. And they said every time you give a user an option, you're asking them to make a decision. When a user doesn't care or understand the option, it essentially leads to frustration. And I kind of find that with Gutenberg and with full site editing itself. So the direction that we're going, it feels like there are more and more decisions that we as users are having to make. Do I use this? Do I use that? Do I just use classic editor that Spencer was talking about earlier and just be done with it because it's easier, or what? So it certainly feels like there is a little bit of a move away where we're trying to please many camps, and it is actually becoming not a lean, clean machine. I'll pop a link in the comments for people to go and check out the WordPress philosophy. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Thank you.
No, I think that's fantastically put, Lee. I think because UX design and working out the balance, what is offered to a certain type of user and what is offered to a different type of user, and how you have a coherent UX pathway and what you offer to these different type of users is not easy. It takes a lot of thinking and working out. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but on the other hand, I just sense that there needs to be some more thought about what is going to be offered to a certain type of user and what should be offered to another type of user. Because I think you put it really well, Lee, is that just putting in more and more options, you end up with a bit of a hot mess in some, with optionitis in a way. I've just created a word, Lee, but that's what you end up with.
Quick, buy the domain.
Yes.
Optionitis. It's a whole new business.
Optimization. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's go on to story 2. Oh my God. Who watched it last night? Who I didn't, but I've heard about it. Elon with his political friend, and then that's a story that broke. They had some slight technical problems last night. What a train wreck. And then I suppose that's what happens when you sack almost 2/3 of your company. And then you got the new CEO. She probably did a runner last night. She probably didn't want to be found. And then you got this whole thing about the friends from Facebook, Instagram probably doing their competitor. So Heather, got 3 elements. Got what happened last night. Got the new CEO. I don't know how she's going to cope with Mr. Musk. And then you got these nasty people from Instagram. Look like they're building a competitor. Got any comments of this witch's brew, Heather?
I mean, I think everyone's building a competitor right now. Whether it's going to actually do anything, I mean, like, so many people have moved over to Blue Sky right now, but I mean, there's nothing on there because, like, there's only so many people that can be on the tool. I mean, if anyone's
I've got to be truthful here. For a lot of the people that have moved over there, I'm not missing them.
Yeah, I mean, they moved over to Mastodon and came back too. I mean, it's like whenever there's a new hot, people move. Like, I mean, Meta has a better chance than others because they've already got like a good third of the, like, more than a third of the planet on their platform. So I mean, it's entirely possible that they're gonna do well here. I mean, they've always had way more people than Twitter on their platforms. So as far as the crashing, I mean, I think that the number of people that were going to watch a live stream on Twitter in the first place, like whether there were the full complement of Twitter employees there or not, it was always going to crash because live video on Twitter has never been very good. I mean, that's why they took down Vine in the first place. It was never very good on Twitter. So, I mean, and having that many people trying to view a live stream on a platform that was never meant for video streaming. I wish they had the fail whale.
Well, we are talking about somebody that sends rockets into outer space. You do think him and his team would be capable of it ever?
But it's not his team there. I mean, that's
well, he decided to sack them all. What do you think?
But when they're streaming the rockets into space, it's a completely different kind of thing. They leave the streaming of the video of that to other people. So I've
only been a little bit.
I know. As far as the new CEO, I mean, I just kept thinking about season 2 of Succession, how they like kept naming Spencer. Yeah, they kept naming a new CEO, and then like everybody's like, yeah, no, we don't really want that person until they knew that there was a poison pill.
Well, how long do you because he's got, I think the CEO of SpaceX and also the CEO of Tesla, they're both women, aren't they? Am I correct?
Oh, it doesn't matter like whether it's a woman or not. The idea is that like if you're naming somebody specifically to be a scapegoat, then the idea.
But I don't think he was doing that. I think he hired her specifically because she's got an enormous amount of connections with the major advertisers that have done a runner But I suppose what happened yesterday, not the technical side, but the whole thing of having politicians and having the owner of Twitter being part of it, that's not exactly going to make the major advertisers warm and fuzzy about also Mr. Tucker pronouncing that he's going to be using Twitter. There's a bit of a
it worked really well for Fox News for a really long time. So, I mean, I would argue that, I mean, it could be a really good way for him to move forward.
So, Lee, what do you make of this witch's brew? This combination of 3 stories all in one.
All in one. Well, I'm inclined to agree with Heather with regards to the media angle for Twitter. I do think it's a potential strong place. I mean, it's where all the news comes from anyway. Everyone who reports anything usually found out on Twitter, and then it gets on. It gets into the media. So I think hiring Linda was probably a really good move. Great connections. She's, so I think that's a positive. I'm excited as well. Just the more competition. If we switch to the app now, I think it was P92 or something like that code name. Great. Let's get as much competition as possible. I mean, we've got Mastodon, which is the open source kind of alternative, which is growing alive and well and doing well, which is fine. But that's not really got any kind of it's not really got a company that wants to make money behind it. Therefore, the rate of change is very slow. Whereas if you have someone like Meta behind it trying to come after Twitter, then hopefully Twitter will continue to improve. I mean, I'm saying this off the back of like nearly 2 years of hardly going on social media because I found it was destroying me mentally because people were arguing with it.
It's destroyed most of the American population, so you might as well.
WP Tavern, I love it, but there are some, some really miserable people in the comments. So I just avoid those sorts of conversations. So I'm not a massive fan of social media, but at the same time, I do recognize that it is where we get our news. It is where we connect with people. It is where we, advertise our businesses. It's where you right now are streaming, and building your platform as well. So we do all need it. So the more competition, I think the better, because if Meta start doing things better than Twitter, then Twitter have got to up their game. Where Twitter is lacking, they will have to up it. Right now, Twitter is quite unique and can kind of get away with that stuff, and Elon can kind of be a bit blasé and be like meh, and people are, oh, he's so cool, that's another meme, and all of that sort of stuff. But with a bit of competition, hopefully they might.
Well, he has his bros,
because I miss mine.
He has his tribe of bro supporters, doesn't he? Spence, I think Heather made a good point there, Spence, about cannibalization. Like YouTube's really gunning for TikTok. Obviously Facebook, Instagram. I think of any of these platforms, they could probably be a serious competitor to Twitter or not. It's all, and then you got this, what happened last night, him hiring this female CEO that doesn't exactly seem, her background doesn't seem to be the type of person that he would really get on with. I don't know. It seems a bit odd. What do you make of it all, Spencer? Oh, you're muted, I think. We're not hearing you.
If you look historically to what he has done, like with those closest to him, like the story about his original personal assistant, right? How I don't know what the details were, but like she basically was given an opportunity to like take a walk suddenly. I think that this person is being put in a position.
Well, she didn't have a baby from him.
I can't remember the circumstances, but like basically she had bent over backwards to make everything happen forever. And then suddenly one day he decided she wasn't up to snuff, and that was it. It was over. Like, emotionless. And so
he normally has children with any female that comes across him. So
I mean, Marissa Mayer comes to mind, except Marissa Mayer padded her pockets with gold along the way when she took over Yahoo, and Yahoo flushed itself down the toilet under her direction. But nevertheless, this is a like made to fail position as far as I'm concerned, because if she does amazing, he's not going to stand for that. And if she destroys things, he's going to blame her anyway. So like, she really can't win. That's the least of my troubles. I think as far as the societal problems we're faced with today. The law and capitalism have a way of fixing everything, don't they? So, my lawyer background has come into other conversations, but I find it fascinating when we took it like with the Dominican, whatever it is, voting machines and all the rest of the stuff and the legal troubles that the Republicans like Trump are having, is that the problems of the bad actors always come and go based upon money. And the attorneys are always in the wait for opportunities to basically pounce on when people act badly, even if it's on their own side of the political table. And so what I see happening here is that whichever way you see all this stuff going down, that there's just a wealth of opportunities for litigation and for follow-up. And now we've seen like the first crack in the Fox walls with that one, settlement that might have a 1 point something billion leading to 6 billion, leading to 10 billion. I think that the board of directors and the shareholders and all the other people for these social networks, for whatever audiences they have left, are going to have to tread very lightly when it comes to what behavior is allowed, because they are just essentially throwing themselves into the arena of a fight that they weren't right now participating in. But if they do, they're exposing themselves to the same kind of societal consequences that are just becoming known right now, right? Because nobody would have thought that's how the whole January 6th thing went down, but it went down because a bunch of lawyers were waiting for the opportunity to sue the crap out of somebody. And that's how hopefully Fox News goes out of business. Hopefully they will be replaced by OAN or blah, 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 or blah, 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 because hate and racism and all that stuff is not going away anytime soon. But the fact is, for these social networks to jump in there, like I don't see Apple spending money getting involved in this. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg is desperate enough because Meta is such a shit show that he's going to jump in there with P92, P93. But like, do we need that in society?
Oh, he's too busy. He's in his virtual world.
Because at the end of the day, like Elon Musk, I really felt like he was the guy that was going to save us from ourselves. But he's seemingly revealed himself.
He's floated off. He's
humanly broken. Like he's gotten sucked into this thing where he's now duplicitous in his statements, right? About like everything from what people should be allowed to talk about to what they should be politically. And I feel like that's sad to me. It's almost like the Howard Hughes thing where he ended up at the top of the Hilton in Vegas, like with his toenails growing. It's like that was the guy that was building advanced fighter aircraft during World War II. So
yeah, well,
yeah,
there you go. So Chris, only thing I don't know what to say about what Spencer's just said, but I thought one part about Linda. I think Linda can.
I'm saying expect the unexpected because the lawyers are waiting.
Yeah, but
Heather knows this. Heather, of all people, knows this. Like the corporate game is not won and lost on plans. It's won and lost on strategic last-minute moves that surprise everybody.
Yeah. Well, but I think Linda, as long as Linda, so I put this to Chris, as long as Linda just keeps with the business and attempts to get back the major advertisers and does deals and keeps out of the boss's insatiable need to make statements on his own platform, she'll be okay. But if she starts telling him that he can't say whatever comes in his mind, she's going to probably have problems. Would you agree with that synopsis, Chris? Or?
Well, I think it's inevitable that somebody was going to come in as CEO because Elon has like 6 businesses and Tesla is in and of itself like 6 different businesses. So it makes sense to bring in somebody who's particularly strong in business operations and sales. And Elon will self admits that he's a product and engineering guy. He's not, but he makes fun of the fact that on his Wikipedia page it says he's a business magnate because he just loves engineering and building product, and that's really what he does well. So he's
the propaganda says that's the narrative, isn't it?
Perhaps, but I'm not as deeply immersed in a more Machiavellian take of the whole thing. But I think, like Spencer said, let's see what happens. It could go great. It could go poorly. We'll see how the next year will speak for itself at Twitter. I do know that Twitter users are really loyal, and I mean, not all of them, but people who have been using Twitter for a long time, really use Twitter heavily. So they have a strong base. And I think that really the main thing about the Facebook competitor, or the Instagram competitor is what's already happened in China, which is it's a race to build the super app like WeChat, which does payments, social media, all the stuff wrapped into one. Twitter, I recently saw now accepts 2-hour-long videos. So are we Netflix and YouTube as well?
I've been uploading my WP-Tonic videos up there
to Twitter.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the race, is to become the super app, not to become the best version of Twitter. It's to become the all-in-one tool. And then
I've had some of these panel shows have gone so long. I've had people actually die on the show. Right. Come on, Heather, that was a good one. All right then. Well, it wasn't then, was it, ever? So, Kurt, what do you think of the Twitter madness?
I've said things before that might be controversial about Mr. Musk here on your roundtable, and I think he is really brilliant at playing all of us. He took over Twitter, and everyone thought, oh, it's going to go far right, and then everyone thought it was going far right, and then he brings in a young female that's worked with the World Economic Forum, the Biden team, and was pro-vaccine. So when he does that, I think it creates kind of a short circuit with a lot of general people, and it'll be interesting. I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to work out. I love the way that he kind of plays with people groups. It's kind of fun to watch.
There we are. Right, he psychs with their psyche. All right, so folks, we're going to go for our middle break. We've got some additional fabulous stories. The panel seems quasi pumped up. They're not some of them are not laughing at my jokes, but maybe they're not that good. So there we go. But we're going for our break. We will be back in a few moments, folks. Folks, I just want to point out, if you're a WordPress professional and you're really looking for a great hosting partner with some great deals for you, why don't you look at WP-Tonic? We specialize in the building of membership and community websites. That's what our hosting is built for. You have a fantastic experience partnering with us. So why don't you go over to WP-Tonic, WP-Tonic/partners, WP-Tonic/partners, and have us look at what we can offer to you, the WordPress professional. So, Lee was giving me a strange look there. I think I've got a bit slicker about this, Lee, haven't I?
I was impressed.
I know. I take
Very
that
smooth.
as a great comment. Actually, I do. Thank you for that. There's not many people in the WordPress community that got a good word to say for me, but there we go. On to number 3. Yes. Oh dear. WordPress 6.2 restores shortcode support. Yes. So, Spencer, this was a little bit of a mess up, wasn't it? I know you kind of delved in it in the first part of the show, but what do you think happened, Spence?
I mean, it seems clear what happened. There's, you can't besmirch the volunteers who work on code, but when you actually dive in, I mean, it's not like when you're heavily medicated and on your back in pain, sometimes it's nice to dive into the GitHub notes and stuff, because it distracts you. It's so boring and puts you to sleep. But when you look at what happened, there wasn't any malintent, but basically some people who had virtually no historical reference of what shortcodes do decided, oh, the shortcode thing can open up the possibility that people can inject a bunch of stuff inside of the block editor as part of something that's in the core. And not to geek out, but that really, to me, was evidence of 2 problems. Number one, the thing that I've been trying to say that people get it, but nobody cares. Full site editor blocks don't work the same way as using blocks on the front end in the content editor. It's just that simple. So the shortcode thing brought to light the fact that shortcodes are a way of executing PHP through a simple piece of text script. But when it executes it at a certain place in the sequence of other events, kind of like setting off a rocket, it has to go, count on 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And because of the way the full site editor is configured, a shortcode that works one way on the front end doesn't work the same way in the full site editor, which breaks things like Launch Flows has something that does stuff with WooCommerce. And because the place that it fires off is different inside, well, okay. So the person who decided there was a security breach said, hey, this thing looks naughty. I can do bad stuff here. Let's just take it out. And there was nobody there to say otherwise.
Yeah.
Because half the community is not caring what full site editor is doing. And that's it.
Yeah. So Lee,
I got geeky pulled on that one, but yeah, I get it.
No, I thought it was fabulous. So Lee, this was a bit of a hot mess, wasn't it?
Well,
wasn't it, Lee? What's going on here?
So the question is, do you activate the automatic updates? And my thought on this was, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you don't, you are potentially at risk. If you do, you are potentially at risk. So what do you do about that? Now, I can't remember anything quite so big happening, at least recently. So I would err towards the side of, I want to protect my site. I want to ensure that my clients are protected. I'm probably happy to leave security updates because in my experience, most of the time, these are meant to be updates that don't affect or harm core functionality. This definitely sounds like something that got with what Spencer was saying, it sounds like perhaps someone who didn't have the full experience in the historical background had made a decision.
Yeah,
and
but
then
the point is, Lee, sorry to interrupt you, Lee. But
how rude.
You're
not sorry, you wouldn't have interrupted. Carry on.
Yeah, but I think I've got some light. I'm sorry about this, Lee. He's never coming back.
You said that last time, and here I am.
Yeah, there we go. You're a glutton for punishment. I'll give you that. But the point is, why is it? What the hell was this left to one person to make the decision in the first place?
Well, I've got a theory on that, and I'll let you know as soon as I've thought of it. I have absolutely no idea. It does boggle my mind that it slipped through, and it would therefore make you question, who is on the team and could there be a little bit of a review? For me, I'm more concerned for all of the poor people whose sites it broke and they had to either roll back or try and find fixes. I think there was a report of, hey, here's some PHP that fixes it, which essentially reintroduces the security bug, security issue. Now, in this case, though, if this was a security issue that was there for an awfully long time, it sounds like, to me, you could just temporarily roll back and wait for it to be resolved. It doesn't sound like a security fix that was... I don't know if it sounds like a security fix that was urgent enough. I am now in a territory where I don't understand because I've not read up enough on this. But it feels like this was something that potentially could have been shelved for a proper update and tested, as opposed to something that would have gone out in the actual security updates themselves.
It's existed since forever. That's the point.
There you go then. So why would they put it in this one? Yeah.
It's a core feature. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but like,
no,
it's
right.
It's like as if somebody suddenly said, oh my God, I have a keyboard on my laptop and I could type naughty things with my keyboard. I better remove the keyboard. Like, it's at that level of foundational. It's been here since forever. And then one day, one guy or whatever decides to pull it out.
Exactly.
So Heather, what the hell do you think was happening here? This is a real. I don't want to throw the individual if it's just based on one who. I'm talking about the whole system. Is it just a sign of quasi mayhem in a way,
No, I mean, when you've got a lot of people contributing to a project and I mean, you've got a continuous integration going on. I mean, it can easily be something slips through. I mean, like if the code builds, then I mean, that's how it works. I mean, I'm working on an open source project right now where we've got Dependabot and Snick like running, and we just assume that if Dependabot like said, okay, I checked it, and like here's all my pull requests, like we just like go through, and then like suddenly everything broke. But so then we have to roll back all of the Dependabot like releases and figure out which one is the like one of the 30 that it just did that broke are released. So
can't AI do that for you? I've been sarcastic there.
No, but that is the AI that's going through your code, going through all the lines of code, saying like, your shit sucks, and here's me fixing it. And so like we're assuming that the AI
How rude!
knows
How rude!
better. So I mean, like, you're always going to have a human in there writing things, and because we're now like in our CI processes, like we've turned a lot of stuff over to the AI to like run automated testing. That's probably where this happened.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. So, Chris, what's your thoughts about this? Because I don't want to. It was a bit embarrassing, wasn't it?
Well, for me, and I don't follow the releases super close, but over my 16 years, I think, in WordPress, this is the first time I've ever had like a core update obviously brick my site. And it didn't even brick it. It just, let me just give you a quick list here. Problems on our podcast website, problems on our LMS website. We just launched a new theme we were doing a demo with. We have our demo sites, problems on all those. And it was really just visual, like features disappearing and just shortcodes displaying. But there was a workaround I found in the thread, which I really appreciated, where you could take the shortcode and put it inside of a template part and it would work. So we were able to actually quickly fix it temporarily. But then our host, we could not update to 6.2 when it became available, because I guess they were not done testing the new version or whatever. So we were kind of stuck. And then we had to like ask them to go ahead and force the update to WordPress. So I think going back to what Lee said, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't with automatic updates or whatever. I'm still on the automatic update train. And I think they're actually going to get better at quality assurance from this and unit test or whatever the fail point was. I think this is a big learning opportunity.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you all right, Kurt, if we go on to the next story, or have you got something you want to contribute to this particular story?
No, the only thing I want to contribute is that this is a great use case for how to problem solve and troubleshoot a problem or a site. You could hit the panic button and start tearing into things in your website, or you could do a couple of quick Google searches and see if anyone else is having a problem. And that leads you to usually a quicker solution. But it's all part of how you tackle, the speed bumps of life.
Yeah. All right, on to the next one. Apple Reality Pro, the new VR. It's going to be shown at the Apple's developer conference. I think that's next week. Reportedly, it's going to be around $3,000, between $2,000 and $3,000. So, Heather,
3 or 1?
No, between two or three. That's why. You're right. So, Heather, if anybody can move this on, it must be Apple. But on the other hand, obviously Mr. Facebook has been spending a lot of time and money on it and seemingly not getting very far with it. What's your spider senses? Do you think that Spencer, Apple can produce something that meets expectations, that in UX or functionality that moves this whole sector on?
I think one of the things or a couple of the things that we are discounting when we're talking about the Apple headset is how quickly the iPhone took over the planet. So, I mean, everybody up to now has been, they've been playing in VR. They've just been playing. But Apple has a complete ecosystem of applications that will be ready-made for this, because that's one of the things they've been working on. They've been working to make sure that every app in the ecosystem that should be on this headset works with this headset. Another thing, I mean, at Evernote, we had to make an app for Google Glass on the day that it worked. And we had to think, what does Google Glass need from Evernote? And you had to think through that. For this, I mean, pretty much everything that works on Apple Watch, I assume like it's going to be similar for the for like those same kind of notifications, and the way that the Apple Watch works is that's my envisioning of how your display in your eyes is going to work for your day to day when you're in AR mode for this. But that's also important. Like it's not just a VR goggle, it is an AR goggle. Like you'll be able to like flip whether you want to see the world in VR or whether you want to see a completely visual like representation of the world around you, like as it is, which no device has right now. Like you can kind of see through in like a weird, like strange reality. But from what we've heard about what the Apple device is supposed to do, it should give you like a full-on real display as if you're looking through a like a your phone lens through that camera. So nothing exists like this. And while it's $3,000 now, I think it will come down to a lower price point later.
Sure.
But I mean, I think it's going to do well, and it's the first step into the next reality.
Maybe very similar to the watch scenario. So, Chris, some of the people I listen to are very negative, even about Apple being able to pull off something that moves the whole platform, the whole area on. I think if they can, Chris, especially in the training, educational, it opens up a lot of possibilities. But I just don't know enough if anybody can move it on and move the needle. It must be Apple. But I do wonder under Tim Cook's leadership if he's really, because I understand what I've listened to. There's been a lot of flux inside Apple about this particular product, that there's been a lot of high level changing focus. Was it was all the functionality going to be built in the actual goggles? Seemingly now there's going to be a secondary device. There seems to be a lot.
I've got the prototype for that. You just need to put this on your belt, and then put it's got a wireless little antenna that you pull up, and that's how they do the Wi-Fi. Just letting you know.
Oh, thank you for that.
Breaking news.
Oh, thanks for that, Lee. So, Chris, what do you reckon?
I think it's I think it's inevitable. It'll come suddenly. I think it's important to go back to the roots of Apple and the crazy ones idea. So think about the early adopters of Apple products being, the misfits, the artists, musicians. Like who's going to lead the charge where the $3,000 price point doesn't matter, and in this world, and the opportunities with online education are huge. Or it's almost like it's a new platform in the sense it's not just that you're online. It's like a different way of experiencing reality than a website. So tying it back to building for the website, like the square screen, the way we build software, we consume content or social media. When you put it on your eyes and you move around, it's kind of like podcasting. It's a new way of it's portable. Podcasting is portable content. You can wash dishes, you can go for a run with it. But now you got the internet on your face and you can go for a run. Not only can you hear it, you can see it. And that's just a new reality. And it's going to cause a lot of chaos and traffic accidents and people walking in front of cars. And it has some dangers with it, as all technology does, just like text messaging increases vehicle accidents and things like that. But it's inevitable. I think Apple's probably the company to bring it. I'm pretty sure they brought the iPad. I don't know my history that well, but Apple has proven to, like, when you're making a platform leap, that they do deliver a good product. They did it with the MacBook Pro. They did it with the iPad, the watch, and so on. So it's time. The time will come. I just don't know when. Or maybe this is it. Maybe we're on the cusp. And look how fast AI came on the scene. Like, what happened in the past 3 years? Where are we going to be at in 3 years from now with the VR glasses? Like, we could be pretty far.
Yeah, so Spence, it's all up for the take. The only thing is, do you think, because Tim Cook's got enormous strengths, you know, that's an understatement, but I think on the other hand, the issuing of a new product, a new platform, you know, he will be compared to one of the founders who unfortunately isn't with us anymore. He had his strengths and weaknesses, but one of his great weaknesses was launching a platform, wasn't it? I'm not too sure that Tim Cook, his ability to launch something like this could, but you're trying to compare him to somebody who was really had enormous ability launching a product, didn't he? So what do you reckon?
Well, I see two parts to this. I like Heather's point, which is in control of the ecosystem, or being in control of the ecosystem with all the matching products really does make a difference today, because there's really not a lot of difference between, I here have a multi-desk setup with an agnostic $143 4K monitor, but I have like a little Intel Nook box, and then I have a new MacBook M2 Air, which was like $900. I've always had both, but there's very little difference except when you want to FaceTime and text and communicate with your Apple pals versus your Android or Windows, and then they don't show up in the system and you're like, what a drag. Or you took a picture on my, like recently, because I'm on my back, I'm on a phone, and it shows up inside my system. Like those little nuances matter. So now comparing the second part, which is the mechanics. I'm physically not at my best right now. You can see me, I'm all itchy and I can't sit, stand, whatever. It's hard for me to use the mechanics of sitting at my standing desk and typing in a keyboard, but I was very easily able to do Zoom meetings on my phone or maybe my laptop. I can imagine if this thing is as lightweight as we talked about a year ago, that you could put it on, and then you have the virtual keyboard. If that works, combined with the auditory visual, combined with the ecosystem, and I can just go into my virtual system laying on my back, I mean, that and wherever else you may be, for all, use your imagination, folks. This is an adults only show. But if you can imagine all the worlds you can go to for work or pleasure, that is really a big game changer. And I think that's actually a comparable alternative to the social media space or the other things that we had been playing with in the earlier part of this show, because like that means that I can do things that take me out of my space and go to places that nothing else gets me. And if Apple has the software and they've got a little bit of a walled garden, the $3,000 actually starts to sound like a pretty good bargain. I mean, I have a VR Quest that was like $300 and it was really cool, but it wasn't like I could do that much with it. But if I could literally lay comfortably on an airplane or in my bed or, you know, in a restaurant and go into a world where I'm working or playing or doing stuff, pretty freaking cool.
So, Lee, I think it really depends, you know, what the software. I think it's a combination, isn't it, of function, the actual physical device being lighter, more powerful. They've got their own chips, which are very suitable for this type of device. Then you've got to build a really good UX experience, and then you've got to have unique software that can utilize the platform in an original way to make the whole buying it and using it worthwhile. So there's a lot of balls in the air. What do you reckon, Lee? You know, it's just, do you think, I suppose the only thing, if you're a betting person, you would say Apple of everybody has the best chance of combining all these things into something that actually works and builds. But what's your own feelings, Lee?
I hate to sound like the rest of everyone who's so far, but I think Apple are definitely the best place to do something like this. £3,000 sounds expensive when you then frame it with regards to the ecosystem and the potential value, especially in Spencer's situation where you can't sit comfortably, etc. And if there were other ways of working, it sounds phenomenal. I think to bring this step round to WordPress, I think we should be looking as WordPress agencies, websites are going to go beyond the rectangle screen at some point. So how can we continue to stay ahead of the game? And I think, therefore, folks, you should be subscribed to WP-Tonic, because you are going to hear first as soon as you need to be building WordPress websites for the Apple glasses. Thank you.
So Kurt, would or do you think, I suppose fundamentally, I just sense, Kurt, that you had the devices and a lot of people said they got nausea and that. And I think the other factor is they thought the strong player was going to be the gaming industry. Heather's got some experience, but I just don't think it really played out, because I think where the growth in the gaming industry, in my understanding, I've never been a big part of that community, is online people playing in groups and mobile gaming. What I've read, the kind of desktop static has been steady, but it hasn't grown. But what do you reckon? Do you think gaming's but they never had a big history in gaming, have they, Apple? So where do you think the growth's going to come from, Kurt?
When it comes to VR, I'm kind of at a loss myself. My mom always told me not to sit close to the TV because it would hurt my eyes. And now we want to strap one right to our eyeballs and see what we see. But, outside of my upbringing, my sister got my son a Quest. And I got to tell you, he looks like an absolute idiot falling around in the living room trying to play these games. But to your point, he's playing online with groups of people, right? So he's getting that social interaction. I can tell you that from my little microcosm, it seems like a really popular thing to do. And while I'm not a big fan myself of it, I did attend a jazz concert in VR and I thought it was amazing. So I'm up to try whatever comes forward. I just don't know that I'm going to spend $3,000 on something to try it, when in reality for my agency, I probably need to upgrade, so much other equipment first. So I'll probably be late to the game, but I'll play.
Right, I don't want this becoming War and Peace. So I think, did any of you want to discuss the other two stories that I listed? Well, we could have a quick comment about number 6, Disney, absurdly expensive Star Wars hotel is shutting down. Were you greatly disappointed, Heather, when you heard the news that Disney was shutting down the expensive Star? I could just see you go there, actually.
Well, so, I mean, I am a huge Disney fan. I love Disney. And when it opened, when the Galactic Star Cruiser opened,
the governor of Florida isn't, though, is he?
Well, actually, he is. He had his wedding there.
Oh, right.
But I was I had credit card ready to order, because Matthew, my husband, is a Star Wars nut. So
I would have never guessed. Ever.
He loves Star Wars.
I think the idea, because he actually dressed in. When I last spoke to him, he had the costume on.
No, he didn't. No. So, but I mean, the price for, it's a luxury thing, but the thing is, you're going for 48 hours. You're basically LARPing for 48 hours. And if you're not into role playing, then this vacation isn't for you. So you're basically paying a Disney premium to work for 48 hours. And most people are going to Disney to experience Disney. And I mean, it's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing for people. So you have to be really into Star Wars and really into going somewhere for 48 hours, not sleeping, and really experiencing everything that's there. And we just couldn't spend the money on that, because he's I love Star Wars. I want to sleep in the hotel. I don't want to act for 48 hours.
All right. So would you have that problem, Lee? Or it's got a little bit of feeling of Westworld about it, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, yeah. I mean, we love Disney. We go as often as we possibly can. And if I had the money, I potentially would have spent on that hotel. However, there are 2 big points I want to encourage people from on this, though. Even big brands struggle during tough times, because right now this is a global economic crisis that we seem to be slipping into, and people just don't have that much money to splash on 48 hours worth of acting and experience. I think it was going to cost tens of thousands to have those 2 days. And then the second thing is then, as a result, does our product offerings as WordPress agencies, does it even reflect the reality of our clients? I'm bringing this right back to WordPress again. So those
you're insisting on putting it. Yeah. You are, aren't you?
Be encouraged. If your agency's struggling, then many people do struggle during tough times. But secondly, how can we change our offering to reflect the reality of our clients as well, as opposed to creating something that was just so outlandish that not many people are going to pay for? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, Spence, what do you reckon? I reckon it's kind of linked to the Apple Reality Pro. I suppose you could combine both, could you? But I suppose you don't have to. I suppose you could go to Helto and then have a unique experience with your goggles on, couldn't you?
I used to go to, I haven't been in a couple of years. I used to go to Vegas every year, many times a year. And Vegas has an evolution from the classic 40s, 50s, 60s. But when I started going in the 80s, they started building the mega hotels, and it like evolved, like the first mega hotels. And then it was like really adult, sexy. And then there was times change where it went to be like weird family fun. And then it changed back to like
that sounds very dicey to me.
I'm just
weird
saying, like,
family fun.
The focus of Vegas evolved. Right, from like Frank and Sammy to like, each era had different things, and now it is what it is. But I'm saying Disney is very good at evolving. Clearly, as Heather rightly pointed out, this was like somebody who goes to be in the Bolshoi Ballet for 48 hours. Like, you really have to love ballet to deal with that. And like, if you were the dad or the mom who shelled out 5 G's and you wanted to go to the spa and you realized all you can do is sit with Chewbacca and drink a green milkshake instead, you'd be pretty pissed off, I think. So I think they just have realized the reality of the families that want to pay for this is not meeting their supply-demand thing. On the other hand, is that a bad thing? No, because Disney's been around forever, and they'll figure something else out. And quite honestly, I love Star Wars, since a kid, but like, there's 8 billion other movies and things they can make stuff for. I mean, maybe they'll make the new Indiana Jones thing or something. Who knows?
Well, the second that it's an actual hotel that you can go into and just sleep there, then I'm there.
Like, I don't contemporary or one of the original ones with the monorail, and like, those are classic. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So, but by the way, and this is not like mixing streams, I hope, but like, Florida has a lot of other issues to deal with right now, not the least of which is the weather, the DeSantis thing, like the politics. Like, there's so much going on. Like, I think that does not get lost in the concept of what people are going to do with their money. I mean, racing down to a hurricane or racing down to a political storm, or there was things we're not talking about in this show, but like your gender, your race, your color, your orientation, like, not a lot of people are racing down to get in the middle of that right now.
I just thought it was a fun ending story. So I'm going to wrap it up now, panel. So, Lee, how can people find out more about you and your fabulous podcast, Lee?
My fabulous podcast can be found over on Tailblazer.fm.
And he insisted that we got the focus back on WordPress because he's wondering, it's all coming back to him from last time that we don't really discuss too much of it. Well, there wasn't
my podcast website is hosted on Ghost CMS. I'm not all about WordPress, but I just figured you had WP-Tonic in the title, so I was just being a jackass. Yeah, Carry on, mate.
Well, you'll never compare to me. So, Kurt, how can people find out more about you, Kurt?
Anything that's Mañana no Mas online typically leads to me, and I am on LinkedIn almost every single day. And I'm the only Kurt Von Ahnen on LinkedIn, so you found the right one when you find me.
And Heather, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
I am Heatheriel everywhere on the internet, and you can just search for Heather Wilde.
Yeah, there we go. So, Spence, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to and your health, where your health is at the present moment?
I'm tweeting my daily motivational recovery journey with the hopes that it will cross the streams between entrepreneurship and physicality, because I'm the old 56-year-old dude, and this one kicked my ass. I've had a herniated disc before, but like a double surgery, unexpected. I realize how much there's a parallel between like building businesses in a world that changes and this. And I feel like it helps me, and hopefully it'll help others. But at the end of the day, I'm all about WordPress as a service. So I'll be talking about that as well, which is, it's been my focus for 2023 and will continue to be, like, simplifying your choices to just get to the solution. So look for me on Twitter, spencerforman.com.
And Chris, thanks. Chris, so how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
You can find me at lifterlms.com. Install the free Lifter LMS plugin, and also check out the podcast LMS Cast.
That's great. And if you found this show really interesting, I think we've had a great discussion. How you can support it, folks, is share it on your social media. By doing that, you would get more people for next month's show and for the regular WP-Tonic show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I thought it was a great discussion. We will be back next month, and it will go quick. They just zoom on for another roundtable show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.